Millions of students are filling out their FAFSAs, applying for scholarships, colleges, and otherwise preparing themselves to enter a new stage of life. Well, how prepared might they really be? So this question begins primarily with another video entitled Don't Stay in School by Boy in a Band. It's a rap style song that points out many things that the modern school system had not taught him or us, and it was his grievances in that. But it really does begin to beg the question. Today we are asking the question, is the school system broken? This is the Oxymoron Podcast. I'm your host, Kios, and I'm joined by my co-host, Casanova. Woo! So, is the school system broken? Is the school system broken?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Bye.
Yeah, show's over. You can go home now.
Could you elaborate on why you think it's broken?
I think it's a very cookie-cutter format being used on individuals, to whereas somebody may not be cut out to be something such as a doctor, lawyer, or rocket scientist. They may want to be a mechanic. Well, they still have to go through a lot of classes that set them up for things like that, to where they just want to do something different, and that doesn't always work for them, nor does it really help them. They could be learning something more useful for what they want to be doing.
Yeah. Side note, really funny, because we say cookie cutter a lot. We need to make merch as a cookie cutter.
I mean, I like cookies, so...
I agree with you that the school system tends to treat every student like they're pretty much the same, which is really weird because if you did the same with medicine, that'd be malpractice.
People would probably die.
People would definitely die. If you give everyone the same medicine like you do education, people would die. They wouldn't probably die, they would die. In older times, there was different types of medicine, but we've updated medicine. We've updated a lot of stuff, but our school system has not been updated with the times. In fact, the current system we have now in the US, and I believe also in the UK, are based off of a system designed to make students into factory workers. So, are we trying to prepare the students for the future or for the past? That's why all the students are in rows. That's why they all have to raise their hand, and that's why everyone's taught the same thing, and it's taught that you're taught to be a factory worker, which is kind of a problem because we don't really have very many factory positions anymore. Most of those are being outdated by the day by robots. On a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you think you have been prepared?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I think I'd go with 4.69537842, personally.
Nice. Why that number?
Because, you see, the way the clouds are, above, and with Mercury in retrograde, I think it's a good number. No, but honestly, I would say somewhere about 4.5 for how well I've been prepared. To me, that just seems about... I feel like there's been some preparation, but not nearly enough. What do you think we should be teaching in schools that we aren't?
I think that a lot of what we are teaching, like you posed, is we shouldn't be teaching or be taught. Is imaginary numbers really something that we need to be focusing on? Do you think that...
No.
It's just... To me, it's baffling that, I know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's baffling to me that I know all these really outward concepts in math. I know the quadratic formula, but I don't know how to do my taxes. I don't know how to raise a child. That's another thing. A lot of people will raise children. They do teach you a little bit about this kind of stuff, but they teach you how not to have a kid. They teach you how to put on a rubber, but they don't teach you what to do once you want to have a kid.
They don't even really teach you that much about that, to be honest.
But it's there's so many things, and a lot of people have said a lot of things, so I feel like I might be saying a lot of the same things, but I think things that should be taught that aren't are stuff like, obviously, taxes, and we should be taught laws in the country that we live in.
And first aid.
And I think we should teach teenagers how to parent. I think that's a big problem that a lot of people have. They're like, well, this generation is, this or this or that or this, or my favorite one, you're not raising them right. Well, no one taught them how to raise their kid, and if they're failing as a parent, it's because you didn't give them them the tools they needed to prepare them for the world. That's what high school, at least in most cases, is considered to be really there for, is to prepare students for the world. Not just so they can get through college, so they get a piece of paper, and then figure out how the world works. We shouldn't be wasting their time by forcing them to go through this factory worker-esque machine. What do you think we are... What do you think we are teaching that we shouldn't be?
Stuff that I think we're teaching that we shouldn't be. One of the things I would say with that would be any of the abstract math. I don't see... There's not a lot of application with abstract math. Some of the depth with history is a little extreme. I don't think specific dates always need to be remembered for certain things. In California, we have this idiotic thing they call AR, which is basically you read a book that is in your specified AR level, basically what they think you're able to read, and you take a test on it to see if you remember the book and all, and you're supposed to get so many points, and different books are worth different points based on complexity and length. And with this, you're kind of told what you are able to read to where you don't have the ability to free explore what you want to read. And I think that's not a very good concept to encourage reading. For many people, I've heard it's turned off reading for them. Most people don't want to read because of AR.
Yeah, I think, and actually, the school that our high school, is actually one of the last ones to actually keep that going. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I did. That's another reason why I'm not a fan of our high school in the slightest. But
Yeah.
I got many reasons. Actually, I wrote a whole essay on why I'm not a fan of our high school.
But it's like when it comes down to a lot of things, like, did you know that standardized testing, A, B, C, D, that kind of testing? You know who is quoted for saying that it's too crude to be used?
Danny DeVito.
The guy who invented it. The guy who invented it said that it shouldn't be used in teaching because it doesn't really show people learning stuff. It's just how well they can memorize and then fill out a couple bubbles. And that's what a lot of school systems, at least here in America, have become, is you memorize some facts, you relay that memorized information, and then you go about it, forgetting it within a couple days. You're not really learning. And that's the biggest problem, is people go to school to learn. And then you have people say, well, you don't really go to school to learn, you go to school so you can get a degree, so you can get a job. And the biggest problem with that is, to get to that next level, you have to do these requirements. And then you have to do this and this and this and this. And the whole reason you do that is to get a piece of paper so you can get a job, so you're financially secure in life. But if you're not taught to be prepared to do the things in life you need to do, don't you see the problem with that? It's like an oxymoron. You go to school so that you can get a piece of paper, not so you can learn or be prepared in life. You go for a piece of paper.
Yeah, I think that most definitely is a problem with the modern school system. And even looking at schooling with college, you take general classes that may not really be necessary for what you're doing, but you still have to take, and that ends up causing you to spend more time and money just trying to get that piece of paper.
Yeah, and it's really weird because, like, even if in high school where you don't have to pay for each single class, unless maybe you're in a private school, you have to take so many classes and say, well, you got to be a well-rounded individual, but it doesn't really make you well-rounded. And besides, to get a job, you don't really need to be well-rounded. You need to be very good at one thing. The world needs specialists nowadays, not, well-rounded individuals.
I'm sure the best surgeon isn't a well-rounded individual. I'm sure the best surgeon is somebody who is very good at surgery.
Yeah, he's not very good at also applying makeup. Because they kind of teach it this way that you gotta be good at everything, and it's kind of like, like swirls almost. But really, we need specialists. You need someone that's really, really good at this thing, or these set of things that's related to this field. And yes, obviously, you need to learn how to read and write. But once you get up to the high school level, and even sometimes into the junior high level, you don't really need that. Like, it's like the joke we've always told, where it's like, you see, or the meme where it's like a frog or something. It's like, 3 years since it's been 20 years since I graduated, still haven't used algebra. It's like, okay, have you ever heard the visual learners, the auditory learners versus the hands-on learners idea?
Yeah.
Which one are you?
Personally, I feel I can do a little bit of all three, but what works best for me normally happens to be hands-on.
Yeah. Wanna know why?
Because I'm actually doing what I'm learning?
Because this whole idea is a lie.
My whole life. A lie.
The visual learner, auditory learner, hands-on learner, lie.
Well, I quit.
Lie.
I quit. Well, that's the end of this podcast, folks. I'm out. My whole life. I have nothing left to go on now.
It's a lie. Everyone learns best with doing it hands-on rather than being lectured to. That's just makes logical sense. You're better at something you can do than something someone tells you about.
What a concept. I thought you meant all three ideas were a lie. I was about to say, but wait, how do I be really good at hands-on learning then? But I get what you're saying now.
No, the idea that some people are this, some people are that.
Oh yeah.
No. You can learn through the different methods, but being lectured to versus seeing someone do something versus actually doing it's the best. Then seeing someone doing it's the second best. Then having someone tell you about it's probably the worst. And that's the primary one we do is lecture, which is another thing that I think is flawed in the school system.
How do you suggest we decide what should and shouldn't be taught?
I think this is going to be a real baffling one. I think okay, first off, are you familiar with unschooling?
Not exactly. It sounds like the opposite of schooling, though, in a sense.
Yeah. So there's types of schools like what are called Sudbury schools. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll leave a link down to a video where they talk about this. In this school, they don't teach like we do here. If a student wants to learn something,
wait, can I stop you right there and say, are they more successful? Because I bet they are.
I'll just get into that.
Yeah, I figured.
So the kids just go off and learn whatever they want to learn, and often, people are like, well, if you let them do whatever they want, they're just gonna sit on their phone, or they're just gonna play video games, or they're just gonna watch movies. And so a lot of them, that's what they do for the first 6 months, but eventually they just get bored. And it comes with this concept that is bored is good, because once they get used to this, I can really just do whatever I want, and then they get bored and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go figure out how to do something, and they really get in depth and they learn how to do whatever interests them. If they're interested in playing the piano, they freaking learn to play the piano all day. If they're interested in doing whatever they want to do, they do it, which is so much more powerful than that. And they do have staff on hand, so if they're like, no, if what they're interested in learning is they want to learn imaginary numbers, which there are people that need that in their life. Like, they need to know that stuff.
Yeah, the nerds do.
But that's not everybody. But those people can learn about that, and they also don't learn it in a way that's forced upon them, which I think is really important, that you're not forcing students to learn stuff. I think that's where it becomes not learning, but memorizing.
I agree.
Because if someone learns something, they want to do something, then they capture the information and they enjoy doing it, and they don't learn to hate something. That's why, like earlier when we mentioned AR, how so many students that did AR don't like doing ARs because they were forced to read books. So now they don't read books.
Yeah, books are dumb. Do you feel the school system is prison-like? Because I sure do.
I feel like the school system is very prison-like because...
What a shocker.
But maybe not for the reasons you might think. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's got a gate around. No, that's not why I don't think it's a prison-like because there's a gate.
No, I mean, the gate's normal. A lot of places have a gate.
Or they're like, well, they have like security. No, well, the main reason why I think schools are like prisons is actually within the classroom themselves. If you want to get up and go to the bathroom, you have to raise your hand.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah, exactly. What the actually, like, honestly, like, that, and you're told what you can be doing at a certain given time and what you can't be doing at a certain given time, and then there will be consequences if you don't do exactly as you were told. Just like if you were in prison.
It's such a hard...
Like my...
It's so difficult. It's so difficult because like it is like prisons. In fact, I think a really funny thing to go along with that is there's a game called Prison Architect. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with his counterpart called Academia?
I've heard of it. It's basically where you design a school, is it not?
Yeah. But the thing is, and a lot of people draw this line, is it's pretty much the same exact game as Prison Architect.
You're not wrong. Like, thinking about gameplay of both.
It's pretty much the same game. In the game, you design. You're not just an architect. You also have to run the school after you make it. And it's because, and I think that's why it's so ironic that I think another reason is because of the type of game it is, and the art is done by the same exact people, and I believe it might be owned by the same people. But the reason why those games are even allowed to be considered close is because they are treated the same exact way. It's very prison-like. But breaking off of the prison idea, you think we should teach tabooed subjects?
Yeah.
You think we should talk about Porgy and Bess?
I don't even know what that is.
The play, but I was making the...
don't know what play that is.
Normally, you think we should teach about hanky and panky?
I mean, it's part of life, so I would assume we should, yeah. Thought we kind of already taught about that, though, in health.
Well, we do teach about it kind of, but not really.
Not very in-depth, I guess, no.
We teach, and the stuff that they do teach, I do agree with a lot of. I agree that we've been teaching, but there's a lot more that really isn't taught. I think although I do think a lot of that tends to be outside sources dealing inward with it. But, like, do you think, we should teach kids about, like, guns? Like, should we physically put a gun in the hand of students and teach them how to use it properly?
I don't think that should be a mandatory thing, but having that as an option, I would definitely recommend.
Okay. What about, I'm just trying to think of some extreme cases of stuff that maybe people would say no, or some people, something like that. Like a lot of people, and I think a lot of schools out towards some of the more conservative sides of stuff don't like them being taught anything. It's like there's a very famous play called I can't think of the name of the play, or I think it might be a movie, but it's about kids that weren't taught anything about how like sex works or anything, and like it cascades outward because they weren't taught how that worked. They didn't understand that if you put two and two together, that
out pops a baby.
Out pops a baby eventually.
Another taboo thing I think that maybe should be touched upon is recognizing maybe some other religions that aren't talked about. Like Satanism as a religion is not really talked about upon in a school environment, although it is a religion that exists.
Yeah, I remember learning a little bit about some of the other religions.
You basically learn...
You don't learn a whole lot, but I remember learning about a couple of them and then talking about them with other people, particularly people that were older than me that had gone to the same exact high school, and they had never even heard of a lot of these religions, which is really weird, or just not even necessarily these religions, but these cultures.
They haven't heard of fatalism, some of them?
Do you think there should be grade levels?
In a sense, I think it's not a completely bad idea, but I don't see it being a necessary thing. I could see there being class levels, though, for difficulty levels of certain classes, but not always a grade level, if that makes sense.
I disagree with you a little bit on there. I think we should get rid of grade levels.
Like I said, I don't think they're necessary.
I think honestly we should have I think we should have clusters of kids from, like kindergarten to like 4th grade in the same essentially class. And the reason why is because of a phenomenon we've noticed about what's called osmosis learning, where people or students learn something from being alongside other people that do know that. Where this is most evidently seen is when people are learning instruments a lot of times, especially in bigger classrooms and stuff, everyone there is the same level and they learn, and it tends to be very slowly they learn. But if you notice stuff like musical parents, musical parents that play along with their parents exceed through the roof in what they've learned on their instrument. Or if they, a student just learns with someone who's good, and you learn through this idea of osmosis where you don't. So if I were to teach you something like on an instrument, say, and rather than me just saying, here's how you put your finger, and then here's how you play this.
Don't put your finger there.
You put your finger on this string and this string and this string, and then here you go. You strum that as a C chord. If I just play and you just figure it out on your own, and you collectively kind of just learn through seeing me do, and then being in that kind of an atmosphere, it's been shown that you will succeed far more than if I just say, here's how you pronounce your T's.
Whoa. That's how I pronounce my T's. I just want to really quickly jump back to something taboo. Another thing I think we should learn about. I mean, it is talked about alcohol and drug abuse, but some things there's only certain sides they're talked about. Like when they talk about marijuana, they just basically say it's bad for your lungs, can cause lung cancer, and is a gateway drug. They don't touch on the side that some people use it to stop seizures and other sort of disorders that it helps some people with.
Yeah.
I feel maybe that should be touched upon, that there's not only downsides to some
things. A lot of things with like drugs in general, a lot of people aren't taught about them. And the funny thing is, like drugs like heroin and all these drugs that are considered like super bad are actually just medicines.
Basically just augmented, yeah.
Well, it's just like I think it was heroin was the one that like doctors back in the 40s, somewhere around their 40s, 50s, 60s, earlier on when it was first invented, they gave it out like a lot, and that's actually how most people go and turn to drugs, is they get addicted from prescription drugs, and then they turn to drugs from the street. But drugs on the street are not nearly as dangerous as ones you can get from your doctor.
I think it kind of depends on what you get on the street. Crystal meth is pretty bad.
You realize they give meth out to kids with ADHD, right?
It's a bit more refined, though. It's you have to take more of it.
No, they give them little pills of it, but if you take the entire bottle, within those little pills, there's way stronger of meth in them.
Dang.
Like, significantly stronger.
Dang.
Than anything you can find freaking Heisenberg making.
Dang.
And it's not that the medicines are necessarily bad, it's just that it's just a lot of people that prescription drug overdose, or prescription drug addiction is what causes most people to turn to the streets to get their drugs. And it's another big thing people talk about gateway drugs being, marijuana, like you said, which it's been proven that it's not.
Right, I'm just saying what they say, but yeah, I agree, it's not.
The one that is, it's just, ones you get from your doctor. And that's
for sure.
It's not talked about.
Should we enforce the teaching of multiple languages?
It's an interesting question, because I stand on the side of enforce, maybe not, but at the same time in other countries, they learn so many languages, so it's a tough line for me, but I think enforcing anything like this would be negative in the long run anyway, but I do think that it should be encouraged that students learn more than one language.
When it comes to the multiple languages, I agree with you. I believe multiple languages should be offered, but not enforced. Unlike with my high school, it's not enforced, but as of right now, we only have Spanish. I personally would have taken French if French was offered, because I find I'm drawn more towards that language. It would have been more willing to learn that.
Do you think that all of these kinds of things are the teacher's fault, or even the administrator's fault?
I would say it goes high up to administrators, and then even lawmakers, for us in the U.S., congressmen.
I think it's primarily congressmen, personally.
Yeah, I would say it's up there with them.
With stuff like Common Core.
Nobody wanted that shit. Nobody.
No one asked for it either.
No. It's like if Rosie has 3 bags of cocaine, and she gives Oscar 3, what color is Jaden's meth? It's like, how do I know that? I don't know.
Schools should have rules.
To a certain extent, yes, but nothing that I would say is too much more extreme than the basic rules found in the said country that school is in.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that, you have to have a whole passage, but it's kind of weird. Another really thing is in, these Sudbury schools, like I mentioned earlier, who, if, a student needs to be, suspended or whatever, who, decides the decision?
The student?
Kind of. Not that student, but all the other ones.
Ooh, it's like they get to vote them up.
It's a democracy of, all the administrators and students combined.
That's pretty cool.
And the cool thing about this is it shows that right off bat that, I'll leave a link to where they talked to the video about this, where they talked about how one time they had to expel a student because they were coming to school all drugged up all the time. They were late and all this. And they had this 6-hour meeting where everyone was crying or whatever. They came to a decision that they needed to expel the student. And it was a big, long, emotional thing. And they all had to vote on it and everything. And who's going to be better off and prepared for life in the world? The student skills. I remember us, if someone gets expelled from our school or suspended, we're like, loser. But
unless they did something really cool, if they did some backflip off a building they weren't supposed to or something. You're saying it depends on what they did. They did something really cool.
Or even we'd see something like, there's one less kid here we gotta mess around with, we have to worry about, or something along the lines of that. Who's gonna be better prepared for them? The kid that's going that's laughing at them, or really not caring at all about the freaking student's well-being, or the freaking kid that sat through a 5-hour meeting and was crying and deprived and saw what their decision could affect other lives. Who's gonna be more prepared for life? The student that laughed because it's freaking the loser got kicked out of school for being a druggie, or the one that saw that their decisions impacted a life?
I'm gonna go with C for this one. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, obviously the second one. There's no doubt about it when it comes to that. What is your favorite story from school?
I think we're the one where I'm gonna tell is one with my partner here. So we have rallies at our school. We have rallies at our school, and he had been suspended. He had a week's detention for doing this, and we had a rally and we left. We ditched the rally and we went over and we just went down. We saw each other. I've already ditched hundreds of them by this point, and we met up. We walked down. We just walked out the gate. We walked out, and then we we went down the street or whatever, walked right past the cop that probably would have stopped us if they knew what we were actually doing. We just went to a little fast food joint right around the corner. We're eating, we're talking, we're like, cool, we get, this extra lunch, because right afterward it was lunch. And who do we see? But, 10 minutes later, a couple of the administrators show up. Attendance administrators, like 3 of them, I think, 2 or 3 of them show up. And we're like, crap.
We thought we just reached destination real quick, but we didn't.
We're like, we're screwed. They come in, they see us, and I think they even might have recognized us. And they order their food, they sit back down, they don't say anything to us. They might have waved and said hi, but they didn't really say anything to us. And then we're like, okay, we'll just act casual. We're here because we're supposed to be. As long as we don't look too suspicious, we're good. And then we see what looks like our principal run up the steps. Well, not run up, but walk up, and we're like, okay, the administrators might not care, but the principal, we're dead.
But with that, I thought, well, the principal's probably supposed to be at school also, so I'm just going to throw this back at them if this comes back on me. That was my first thought.
And so the principal walks up, who it looks like the principal. We're still to this day, we're not sure if it was or not. They go up, and I think they ask for the bathroom. They go to the bathroom. We're like, well, maybe it's a good time to leave. We finish eating or whatever. The lady doesn't come back out till after we're gone. So,
probably dropping like massive shits in that bathroom, like bad.
And then eventually we're like, okay, it's time, lunch has started, we can finish a beer or whatever. Then we just drive around and messed around for the rest of lunch. But we sat there the entire time with the administrators right next to us, secretly freaking out that we're gonna freaking wind up getting suspended or something.
I was hoping for suspension. I just didn't want lunch detention.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite stories from lunch. Well, you got a story?
Well, this goes back to me ditching a rally. I know, how ironic, but different time. And me and a couple friends got in my car during the rally, and we drove out the front gate, and our principal happened to see us do so, and we ended up getting back, and I ended up with 5 days lunch detention for it, when my friend, for physically hitting another person, ended up with only 2 days of lunch detention. Now, how that makes sense, I don't know, but yeah.
See, the problem is, they went to the same high school we went to, so they don't know how to do that.
You're right.
What are your final thoughts? Is the school system really broken?
I would say it most definitely is broken, and a lot of that has to do to the school trying to teach everybody the same instead of catering to more of the students' individual needs and aspirations.
I think we need to follow more suit with some of the other schools, like Sweden, who is number one with education right now.
Good for you, Sweden.
Because a lot of people are like, well, that might not work. These Sudbury schools, they might not work. They might not work on a grand scale. They might not work past just a couple of students. These students could alone be themselves, be already smart. But when it's used on a massive scale like in Sweden, and it's proving results, we need to take lead, and the school system needs to catch up and improve with the times. And that comes down to more of a law issue. So I think we need to collectively come together and say, we need change within our schools, and not only within our schools, but to our lawmakers, either here in Congress in the U.S. or whatever country you're in. Although I know most of our viewers are in America. We need to tell them that we need change. We need to be taught the things that are useful, and have the option to learn the things that aren't quote-unquote useful, and not be forced to learn imaginary numbers. But we want to know what your thoughts are on the topic. Do you think the school system is broken? Tell us yes, no down below in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and thanks for listening. This has been the Oxymoron Podcast.